You got an opportunity here. Give the people someone to hate.
Okay, so we close out with several gut punches. I will talk about how we got to that point, but yeah, it's an incredibly devastating ending. Vic is dead, Sofia's back in Arkham, and Oz is living out an Oedipus complex. He's finally got everything he wanted, or at least a simulation of it. We close out with him and Eve dancing, with Oz wearing the quintessential penguin outfit. He has the classic tux, bow tie, and Eve even has the cigarette holder from the comics. This is something Burgess Meredith's incarnation used, and it was what his father had at the start of Batman Returns. As for Eve, she's wearing the clothes his mother wore at Monroe's and telling him all the things he wants to hear. I think it really shows the pair's relationship and how it's never been real. Oz always paid her to be a certain way, and here we see it's to the ultimate extent. Earlier in the season we saw a Polaroid of Eve in which she'd been a singer at a club. It's likely that is why he gravitated towards her, as there was one at Monroe's. He also got her to wear a wig to appear a certain way. This wasn't how she was, and she knew Oz didn't like it. However, this appears to be her natural hair, but it's been done up to be like his mother's. We know that she also betrayed Oz with Sofia, and was likely discussed that he covered up the hangman. So here she is, treating it like a job, and Oz doesn't care about her either. He just wants the maternal stand-in. Now Oz actually really surprised she's gone back because he covered up the death of her friends. Overall though, I think it shows both are survivors and will do whatever they can to get by. Oz is just trying to live out the fantasy, and this all ties back to episode 2. There he and his mother danced in her home with him promising to take her to the top. This was building off their night at Monroe's, which was the moment that Francis made him promise her. We also had her in the rundown apartment where she asked him to kill her if she ever was a vegetable. That went down in episode 6, and it was after he found her sinking in the tub. Looking back, I did wonder if this was her drowning herself so she could have a similar death to her sons. Shoutouts to DC Film News for pointing out that she had a flashlight in her apartment at the start of episode 1. This appears again in this episode, and it's something she shows to Rex. It highlights she was well aware and didn't really forget what happened to her sons. If you go back, she had lines about how Jack and Benny were just taking a bath. This all ties in with the drowning, and the clues were there all along. However, Oz won't let her forget either now, and he's just forcing her to live in her own personal hell. Stuck in her body, unresponsive till she dies, this is the one thing she didn't want to happen. Now Oz is also wondering if she's even aware of it. Their relationship's completely destroyed because of all the things revealed earlier. To top it off, he's keeping her here and forcing her to spend the rest of her days like this. He wants to make it work, even if there's more pain than pleasure. I think in his mind he's justifying it, and it all ties back to this.
Christ, what I wouldn't do to get out of here. Living one of them penthouses all the celebrities buy, that'd be nice, huh?
In the end, Oz is truly alone, and he's now become the penguin that's worked his way to the top of the ladder. Every crime family is either dead now or under his control.
Let's dance.
Now the next thing I want to talk about is the death of Vic, which is easily the season's biggest gut punch. I had been theorizing for a while that it could happen, but even then, completely heartbreaking. However, the clues were there, and there was lots of foreshadowing for this. For starters, we had episode 2. There we had Vic digging a grave with Oz looking over him and hinting he could kill him if he wanted to. We then had Vic in episode 3 saying,
"He's gonna kill me."
Now why he's done this, I actually think makes a lot of sense. To Oz anyway. Still hate the guy. Oz is not only a bad guy, but he's also came up the same way Vic did. Both lost their family through flooding in Gotham, and both came up as drivers for mobsters. Oz ended up working for Sofia, and we watched as she took over an empire. She became a thorn in his side, and the two have created a gang war. The person that won was the person that was in the driver situation. Oz has already seen Vic was willing to leave him, as he fled his side earlier in the season. Though he came back, there still might be that doubt. For all Oz knows, Vic could end up becoming like him and envious of what his boss owns. We see this in the case of the Triads and the other gangs in the montage during the scene with Sofia in the car. The leader of Zao was betrayed by his underlings, and Oz might just see it as a cycle that often happens in these situations. From Oz's point of view, I think he sees Vic as a future threat, but there's other aspects beyond that. Oz could also see Vic as being someone holding him back. In order to be at the top, you can't have anyone you care about. Oz told people his mother was dead, and at his apartment didn't have any attachments. He's seen firsthand how his mother's been used as a hostage, and it nearly destroyed him. So he could have just been killing Vic before it gets to that point, and he has someone that he's tied to. I also think looking like he belongs to the elite is something that's important to factor here as well. In a bit, we'll talk about where I think they're going, and it makes sense he kills Vic for that. Sad thing is, Vic was one of his only friends. He was like a brother, but we did see how last time he didn't warn his brothers about the storm. We seen them sinking like Warner Brothers, and worst thing is, he didn't even warn a brother. Yes, we have just launched our Warner Brother inspired t-shirt, because like there's 15 comments out of 20,000 asked for it. The people demanded it, so we did it, and if you're gonna spoil the movie, at least warn a brother. That's on our merch store below the video, along with our pick up a penguin shirt. Huge thank you if you picked one up over the season, and as always, you know, you guys are the best for all the support. Now without Vic at his side, Oz is gonna have to tackle the Batman alone. That's the one who's really the next step up, and Oz thought the gang war was bad. Now he has an opponent with unlimited resources who's already taken him out before. That signal at the end, it gave me goosebumps upon seeing it, and it was the perfect cherry on top. Now though we're releasing this right after the episode, I can't imagine there's gonna be some people disappointed that Batman didn't show up. Reeves actually got asked about this, and here's what he had to say.
We just wanted to make sure that if we did have him cross, that he didn't. Batman is such a powerful figure that if he comes in, he could mess with the narrative in a way. I mean, it's like what would happen. You're Oz. You're suddenly interacting with. It would suddenly, in a way, be taken over by Batman. And we wanted this to be Oz's moment, Sofia's moment, Francis's moment, Vic's moment, and let this story be told. See the story of him having his rise. And so we toyed with it. We tried to find the moment, but we could never quite find the moment that didn't step on what was important, which was telling their stories, his story.
Huge shout outs to TV Insider for that interview, and definitely go check out the whole thing if you want some more insights. Now going forward, I actually think that due to the time setting, that the villain's going to be someone like Mr. Freeze. We are heading into a cold winter with the Batman 2 picking up right after this show. Reeves' universe is also known for its groundedness, and therefore I think the cold style of the villain will be reflected in the environment, in a more natural way at least. I don't necessarily think there'll be freeze guns and things like that, but potentially Freeze can find a way to weaponize the cold climate of Gotham to achieve his own ends. I know in the Batman release that Reeves teased at doing Freeze in some form, and this is perfect in my eyes. Potentially his wife could have been harmed in the seawall break, and he's keeping her underwater in a cryostasis to try and bring her back. Look, I'm not a writer in Hollywood, but there is one thing that I think is going to happen pretty much definitely. In terms of Oz, I think we're leaning towards one of the biggest stories we've ever seen with the Penguin. We have a lot of things going on with the politicians, which I think setting up he's gonna become the mayor. Now we're looking at the Batman, Bella Real becoming the mayor, and that was obviously the backdrop of the movie. Tied in with that was the killing of the mayor, and we also had Thomas Wayne who wanted to be one in the past. So there's definitely that feeling that those who get to that position are the ones who control Gotham. We also saw Oz torture Councilman Haiti, and later he plays with his ego to get him to do what he wants. I feel like these were all put in place to basically pay off down the line. Reeves has taken a lot from Batman Earth 1, and there's been several things adapted from that book. For example, the line "I'm vengeance" comes directly from that. You might also remember that around the time of the movie's marketing that there was a big kickoff because Pattinson said Batman's not a hero. Not sure how well you can see that, but that line actually comes from the back of Earth 1. So I feel like Reeves might have passed it around on set as being a must-read. There's also Batman punching Gordon, him falling and fumbling, a serial killer in Gotham, Thomas Wayne running for mayor, and yeah, lots of different elements. Now the big thing he didn't take from that is that the Penguin's the mayor in the book. Him running for election's a plotline from Batman Returns, and it also happened in the 66 show. Let's be honest, the mobsters have a target on their back now, and Batman's gonna be coming for them. This is coupled with Bella Real, who we know is going after all the criminals in Gotham. So the only way I feel Oz can survive is by switching into politics. This would put him above the criminals and make him more difficult to take down. However, he'd also be able to still live that good life. He'd really control Gotham, which is something he'd seen firsthand. Though he ruled a large part of the criminal underground, he couldn't turn on the power for his mother. It's only when he went to the politicians he was able to do it.
You gave people jobs in Crown Point. You got the power back on. You gave people dignity.
It's all stuff that feels like a politician could run on. During the midpoint of the episode, we see him visiting City Hall and looking at Bella Real's plaque. He also bangs the gavel and stands on the podium before sitting in the chair. Personally, I believe this is all coming together, and it's basically foreshadowing what's to come.
If the voters want answers.
To me, this is also another reason why he kills Vic.
You gotta look clean.
Vic is someone who will time to the criminals, and thus he has to clip his wings. Is that a phrase for it? Is that a penguin clipping his wings to kill someone? Is that a phrase? Oh, no, either way, Oz then travels into the main hall where he spots Bella Real. Looking at her, we also get a focus on the mayor's sign behind her, and to me, that's the prize. Just the way he's dressing now as well, he seems like an upper class gentleman. So I see that as being the avenue they go, because it's the only way he can outwork the Bat.